Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome back to the AI Cup in 2023. That's part of the Champion Chess Tour and that you can follow on chess.com. We're now in the super final. We're now in the grand final between Magnus Carlsen and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. You know the grip, they have to play 4 rapid games. The better out of 4 games is the winner of this amazing chess event. If the game ends maybe with an equal result, then of course they have to play additional games, maybe even the beautiful Armageddon game. So we're now in the round 1, and in the round 1 already spectacular things happened. We have here theoretical novelties, dynamic play, mistakes, blunders, but also really cool opportunities, cool tactics. In my opinion, really spectacular game, because I think if you're D4 player, you really like this one. Many good new opportunities shown here by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Magnus Carlsen. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. Magnus opened with the move d4. Maxime's response was d5, c4, the queen's gambit, and here Maxime goes already into a beautiful opening. The queen's gambit accepted we have now on the board, which is I think a little bit surprising here to see. Probably when you play with the black pieces you want to play more solid openings, but I think this Queen's Gambit accepted fits for Maxime's style, because he's an aggressive player. He's of course a tactical player. Really beautiful opening choice already here by black. So we have e3, knight to f6, bishop to c4, e6, and after move knight to f3 here, a6 for of course played by MVL, trying of course to hit the bishop with the move b5 and also to break and enter here with the move c5, which is of course the normal plan of the Queen's Gambit accepted. We have kingside castle. We have now the move c5, and now basically for white there are many choices. You can play of course bishop to e2 in order to prevent black to have an extra tempo against your bishop on b5. What you could also do is of course to play the move b3. Then after something like b5 and bishop to e2, black doesn't have anymore the c4 progress. That's many times an opportunity for black. What white could also do is now to play the move queen to e2, but then probably you lead into this line, and after bishop to d3 maybe black will also try to advance the pawn on c4. So I myself like to play this queen to e2 method against the potential progress of blacks, but Magnus Carlsen played now a very interesting choice, the move a4, preventing b5. But what I don't like about this move, I'm not saying this is a mistake in accuracy or something what Magnus is doing here, but what this move is also doing, it's preventing b5 as I said, but it's also keeping b4 weak, a3 weak, c3 weak, also the b3 square weak, keeps many spaces here for black to attack. So that's why, as I said, the downside maybe about this particular move. So here MVL goes with knight to c6. We have queen to e2, c takes d4, rook to d1, of course pinning now the pawn cannot move, so that's why bishop to e7, and now we have e takes d4 here by Magnus Carlsen, creates of course the isolated d pawn, which is many times happening in the Queen's Gambit accepted games. And of course the main goal for white in isolated pawn structures is of course to advance the pawn by playing the move knight to c3 and then open the center with this dynamic method. So here kingside castling, Magnus prepares now the move d5, but you see now the downside, the small downside here about this move a4. It allows here black to have now access to the beautiful b4 square, and here MVL has so far a great grip, a great protection around the square d5. Magnus goes of course knight to e5. Now when you have left the protection of the e5 square, Magnus occupies now this weakness in the position. We have b6. MVL is of course trying to develop the light square bishop, knight to e4, bishop to b7, knight takes f6, bishop to f6, and look at this. MVL has I think already equalized the game in an early stage of the opening, has beautiful bishops on the board, has also the active knight on b4, and of course the opportunity to create this blockade, as we said, really this compact setup, this beautiful position around the square d5. But now Magnus shows of course also the beauty about this move a4. Magnus plays a beautiful rook lift, and you know I'm really big fan of rook lifts, so because I've analyzed now many Stockfish games here on my YouTube chess channel, and this rook lifts by Stockfish are always sort of a signature move by the Stockfish engine. Now Magnus is doing the same, of course, with the idea to shift the rook over to g3 and then of course attack the g file, include more attackers here, because the bishop is of course so far a good piece, but keeping only the bishop in front of the king could be very risky. So beautiful dynamic position we have now already here by these two top GMs. Here MVL now counterplays Magnus Carlsen's brilliant rook to a3 with a theoretical novelty, a move that has never been played so far in chess history. At least I'm not seeing games in the database. Really risky choice, but a dynamic choice. Really beautiful, beautiful move here by MVL. B5. Immediately breaking and entering here on the queen side, but now after a takes b5, MVL leaves now this pawn hanging on b5. Look at this bishop to b5, but the idea is now to immediately threaten checkmate on g2. Really, really wild stuff. And Magnus, believe me or not, already doesn't react correctly. Here the best choice is to continue with your plan. You have played the rook lift in order to create dynamics with your rook. That's the most important goal, I think. But look what happens. For instance, rook to g3, you could maybe counterplay with rook to d8. But now, look at this. Magnus played now the move knight to f3. Leaves now this rook out of game. You wanted to have it there as you have started. But look at what happens. For instance, if Magnus would have played the move rook to g3, MVL probably would have continued with rook to d8, putting more pressure against the pawn on d4. Now there is this beautiful idea. Knight to g4, hitting now the bishop on f6. And look at this, black can even take, believe it or not, this pawn. It seems risky to get in front of this in front of the queen like this, but actually white should not play here bishop to e3, because now things are getting very, very messy. Look at this, even bishop takes b2 is here an opportunity for black. White doesn't have to play this line, but look at this, how tricky, how dynamic this position can become. Look at this, you play rook to d5, but now we play rook to a1. You have to now cover, and now there's simply too much pressure on the d file. You can even, of course, play queen to f1, but now we can even pick up first the rook here on d5. So in my opinion, messed up game here for white for sure. But of course, here instead of this move bishop to a3, you can play actually a beautiful h4, and that was now, I think, a huge opportunity for Magnus. First rook to g3 and now h4. For instance, you try queen to c5, maybe putting more pressure against the pawn on f2, but now you play bishop to g5, and here white should be, I think, much better. This was the way to go. Look at this, with opportunities even in some lines to play knight to h6, including the queen into the attack, bishop to d3 maybe in some lines. So I think white's pieces are playing in beautiful harmony. So of course bishop to d3 should be probably met with something like, I don't know, knight takes d3, but then you can build maybe a battery on the d file. Many opportunities. Black has to react with f6 or something. If you play f6, then queen to e6 is going to happen. So this was the way to go for Magnus. But as I said, rook to g3 followed with or first knight to g4 and h4. But here Magnus played a slightly passive move, knight to f3, and this allows now here Maxim Vachier-Lagrave to keep the attacking flow. He plays, of course, rook from f to c8, occupies the open c file. We have rook takes a8, bishop to a8. Very nice move here by MVL, because he's trying, of course, to stay here on this file where the rook can come, of course, on the spectacular square c2. Bishop to d2, rook to c2. This is the way to go by MVL. Queen to f1, queen to d6. Look at this. There are even some positional threats, positional trades of pieces as a possibility for black. Bishop takes f3 followed with bishop to d4. Also then the h2 pawn is weak. So here rook to c1 played by Magnus Carlsen. Beautiful defensive move, because if you play now rook to c1, then after queen to c1, you cannot play bishop to f3, because this one is going to happen. Look at this. Queen to c8, you have to cover. Queen takes d8, bishop to d8. Now we pick up here the knight on b4, because the bishop gets suddenly deflected from the defense of the knight, and now you step back. But in this scenario, here of course we have we're up a pawn in a fully endgame stage, and this should be, I think, completely winning here for white. So that's why here after rook to c1, here MVL didn't go for this line with bishop to f3. The MVL continues the beautiful pressure that he created. Bishop to e4. This is the way to go, keeping the active flow, keeping here really progressive play here. After bishop to a4, we have bishop to a4 here by Magnus Carlsen. Rook to c1, queen to c1, knight to c6, not allowing this dangerous checks here on the back rank. We have bishop to f4, queen to d5. Now there is this huge threat of bishop to f3, and finally Magnus goes into a simplified line with bishop to c6, queen to c6, queen takes c6, bishop to c6, and this is, in my opinion, a good continuation now also for white. This should be, of course, probably a draw position. White is up a pawn, but black is, of course, the bishop here and can, I think, defend his position. This is now, I think, in top GM level, this should be really draw. But now Magnus started to play a little bit strange moves. We have to say it like this. Here MVL says, okay, I will take your knight, I will take your pawn, okay, you have this passer, but my king will eventually come into the defense, and you have here a messed up pawn structure. You have also the weak pawn on f2, you have also the weak pawn on h2. Many opportunities now suddenly also here for black. But again, if white, I think, plays this game correctly, again, this should be a draw. But look what happens. b4 here. We have f6. We have f4. King to f7. We have king to g2. King to e8. Of course, MVL includes now the king into the game. Again, a very active move by the king. A check by Magnus, but now king to d6. Now MVL's king is getting towards the center, which is, of course, a good opportunity. Now the king is supposed to play as an active piece, not something that you should defend. Of course, in potential endgames, the king is almost the most valuable piece on the board. So we have king to f3, king to c5, and now Magnus makes, I think, even the crucial mistake of the game. He played now the move king to e4, leaves now the f2 pawn unprotected. This was not good. A better choice was simply to play b6, but again, look at this. King to c6, then you have to step back. We simply play f5, keeping all of our pawns on light squares, where the pawns cannot be attacked, of course, by the dark bishop. And now we pick up this one. Again, this would be a tough time here for white for sure. I'm not saying this is completely maybe winning for black, but this is unpleasant game for white for sure. So, but Magnus played king to e4, and we'll say thank you. I will take out now this pawn. Magnus tries f5, and now e takes f5. We hit king to f5, and here Magnus lost now the pawn that's supposed to be a good pawn, that's supposed to at least do something on here on the board. But now obviously this is completely winning. We have now 3 versus 1 situation. Magnus tried now this one, bishop to c3. Here we have bishop to h4 by MVL. Very important move, because in some lines, if you don't play that, I think white can even sacrifice here the pawn, the bishop farther before 2 pawns, and corner the king here, because in a potential endgame, if black is only left with the h pawn and with the dark square bishop, black cannot promote this one. So we have to also consider this kind of a tactic on this particular angle. So that's why bishop to h4 here by MVL. We have king to e6, king to c4, getting an extra tempo. We have king to d3, the king is getting closer. And now MVL found the beautiful winning plan, f5. Look at this. After king to g7, it doesn't matter. You can take out now this pawn, but nothing can stop now this one. Here Magnus is challenged in this way. Of course, the threat is bishop to e3, trying, of course, to liberate the square f2 to potentially promote the pawn here on f1. That's why Magnus has to stay now on this diagonal, but now MVL attacked the bishop, and you can do many things here. MVL choose to play this one, bishop to g4, bishop to f4, trying, of course, deflect the piece from the square f2 and then push the pawn further. We have bishop to h4, and here after bishop to d2 in this position, Magnus Carlsen resigned. You can, of course, stay on this diagonal, but now we simply play this one, and this is game over. You have to step back or maybe trade off the pieces, but still, of course, then there is the promotion, as I said. After bishop to d2, Magnus Carlsen resigned. So, really crazy game. Brave ideas here by MVL in the beginning with the move b5. Maybe not the optimal way, but surprise element for sure. In rapid chess, optimal opening line that MVL played here. Surprised the big Magnus with the black pieces. Incredible game it was. Beautiful, I think, in rapid time format to play such a dynamic variation, to also go into a favorable endgame, realizing also this potential maybe drawish position with this wrong bishop position. So in my opinion, really beautiful gameplay by MVL and Magnus Carlsen. So we'll see now what will happen in the next couple of rounds. So far MVL has now huge advantage. He can be maybe the winner of this beautiful chess event, but of course Magnus is probably not satisfied. Magnus will probably also try to get back into the game. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the Queen's Gambit accepted. If you want to see more common chess games, here on my YouTube chess channel, here are some links of my playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.